Hello and welcome to Netcode-Hub channel, my co-developers. In today's video, we are diving into the world of secure coding practice by exploring how to keep sensitive data safe and sound. Whether you're a developer, DevOps engineer, or just a curious learner, understanding how to protect sensitive information like API keys, password, and configuration settings is crucial. Today, we will cover 3 powerful tools for this purpose, and that is using environment variables, using user-secret, and using HashiCorp Vault. So, imagine you are developing a web application that interacts with a third-party service using an API key. This API key is sensitive and should be kept secret, because if it falls into the wrong hands, you know what will happen. It could be misused, leading to potential damage, breaches, and financial losses. So in this case, there are 3 ways, or more than 3 ways, but let's talk about 3 ways. There are 3 ways that you can keep these API keys and our sensitive data secret. The first one here, we can implement environment variables. In a development or production environment, you can store the API key in an environment variable. This way, the key isn't hard-coded into your source code. Instead, it is retrieved at runtime from the environment, ensuring that it remains separate from your code base and reducing the risk of accidental exposure. So that's the first one. Now, when it comes to the user secret, while working on your application locally, you can use user secret to keep the API key out of your code and local configuration files. User secret allows you to store sensitive information securely during development, ensuring that the API key is not checked into version control systems like Git. And the last part here, that is the most interesting part, using the HashiCorp Vault, or using Vault in short. Now, for production deployment, you use HashiCorp Vault to manage the API keys. Now, this Vault provides a centralized, secure way to store and access secrets. With fine-grained access control, only authorized applications and users can retrieve the API key. Also, it offers audit login to track who accessed the secret, adding an extra layer of security and transparency. So you can see that all that we discussed here are very essential in application development. So why this matters? So by using environment variables, user secret, and HashiCorp Vault, you ensure that the API key is protected at every stage of the development lifecycle. That is not only prevent unauthorized access, but also enhances your application overall security posture. Keeping sensitive data secure is essential to maintaining user trust and safeguarding your application's integrity. So now you understand what each is going to do, or what each does, talking about the environment variable, talking about the user secret, and I'm talking about the HashiCorp Vault. Let's see how we can integrate each in our web API. So let's first talk about environment variables. I have a demo application web API template created already, and that is what you can see from the screen. Now, if I go to my solution, we have a default one. I haven't touched it since I created this. Okay, so that's the default one from the ASP.NET team. Good. So now that you also have your own, let's continue with this. So here, let's say you have a payment API key. All right. Now maybe you would say, okay, fine, let me go to the apsettings.json in here. That is this file. Let me create a section here as payment key. Let's say this is app settings payment key. And now you put it, or you paste it in here. Okay, it sounds right. You can do this. But when you do this, anytime that you want to push this code to GitHub, this file, this app settings will also be pushed in there. So if your application is an open source, then this API key too is going to be an open source. And you can see that's not the best idea to do that, isn't it? Good. So putting up API or sensitive data in the app settings here, it is not recommended. You need settings which is common to everybody and which is not secured, or which doesn't need much security. You can actually put them in here. But for keys like this, then you can find a way to put that. And now the second way to do here, it is to implement the environment variable. Environment variables here cannot be accessed directly, as you can see from here. Now it's used as a secret. Now how do you set it? There are different ways of setting it. Let's see. First, you can go to your configuration in here. That's the properties of your project. But before that, I want us to get and now set. Now we are setting this here, right? So how do we get this? So in order to read this data, it's quite simple. I've made a video on how to do that, but let me show you just a line of code and you can do this easily. So from the controller in here, I have a controller known as a config, and now with this controller, I'm going to remove all this because you don't need. Now let me also remove this as well. Let's create a simple endpoint to return our data in the config. So here we're going to say that this is just get, and here we have a public action results. So that is simple get. Now in order to get this data, we need to use the configuration. So let's use that interface. I'm sure this is config. Now to get that, we can return okay, then config, you pass in the section name in here, and that is all. So let's close this. Now when you run this, we're going to have access to the key or the value specified in this configuration, that's the apsettings.json. So let's try to access that from here, and we must see the data in there exactly, and that's what we have. So that's a simple way to access the apsettings.json file. Okay, so now let's see how do you work with the environment variable. So how do you write data to the environment variable? There are two ways of doing that. So the first thing here is there's an app setting payment. So let's grab this. Now let's go to, we can use the UI to set this. Right click on your project and I go to properties. Now under project properties, let's go to debug, and in here click on this open debug launch profile UI. In here you're going to have access to this HTTPS. Since our app is running on HTTPS, we can now set the environment variable. So let's put it in here. This is our key environment, that's an API. So here I'm going to say that this environment payment API or key. Now in that we need to set the key in there. So we can also set the key here. Okay, now when you are done, all that you need to do here is to grab the key. That is all. Now you can close this. Let's go to our controller, and now the second part here is we're going to get, let me make a duplicate of this, and now this environment, so env for environment, and now maybe we can make this as app settings. Okay, now from here we have our app settings, and there's an environment get data to is okay. Now here for us to get this, we can also use environment.set or get variable. So here we are going to get this. Let's try and see. So let's say this is a string, and we have our data is equal to, we can get it from environment dot, so get variable, we can have it in here. All that you need to do here is to specify the key, and now this environment data we can pass it on into this one. Let's run this also, and I'll check it out. Now let's access the environment variable that we created with the key, and I can see we have this in here. So you can see that this environment variable, it is not attached to the source code like what the app setting is done. It's not attached. Now it gets loaded into the memory during runtime. So this is not accessible. If you want to push this source code to GitHub, it is not accessible in there. Good. So now that we have this, what is the next thing that we're going to talk about? How do we set data to this environment variable? So this is quite simple. Let's see our code, and then in here we want to set and get. So let's set it in here. In order to set it, we can say that environment variable dot, we have set environment variable, and now let's give it the name in here. That's environment. Let's grab this. We give it a key, and now this key is what? Environment key 2. Let's set the value in here. So I'm going to grab this, the token in here, and paste it up in here. Good. So you have our token, we have our key, we have the variable, and that's the value. Let's save this, and now once you save this, we want to get this. So for now, we can return, let's close this, okay, or maybe we can pass it on this. Now how do we know that it is this one? Let's add 2 to this, yes, to make it unique. Now let's rerun this, and now see whether we can set this data to the environment variable, and whether we can also retrieve the same data being set in the environment variable. So let's see. Now if I click on this, let's see what we have. You can see we have the data in here, right? Now let's go to the source code, the settings, and now see whether we can have it set there. You see you're not having it here, but it is set. We can actually access it anytime that we want. All right, maybe we can, let's try to do it again and then verify. Maybe it was open with already. Let's see if it's going to be there. So that is this one, not this, not the resources. So this, yes, and we still have, we do not have the API 2 in there. That's environment payment key 2, but in here, let's see, we've set it already. Now let's see, when we run this, can we access this? So once we have commented the set, we are only going to retrieve it. Now we specify the one that we set it dynamically. Now let's see if we can access that. Okay, so you can see we did not get it. So in order for you to get or maintain it, keep it for a long period, you need to set it manually using the properties section, and now set it in there. Okay, when you do that, it's going to stick even when the application is closed. But when you set it dynamically, when the app is closed, the data is also ripped off anytime that you start the app, unless you set it again. So this also can be used in another scenario, maybe whereby you want to keep the user in a session. So once the app closes, the data also, the key also gets disclosed. Disposed. Yes, the data get disposed. Now when the user connects again, you have the data set. So all these, you can use them for different use case or scenario in the application. But now you know how to set it. You know how to set it manually using the UI. You know how to set it dynamically using code, and how to retrieve them as well. Good. Now let's see the next one. How do you work with user secret? So for user secret, it's quite simple. Now we have our key in here. So let's grab this key. And now with this key, we're going to make it. So in order to set this user secret, that is what you need to do. First, let's open your console, or the package manager console. And now in the package manager console, you need to use .NET, then set user secret. Now .NET user secret, so dash secret. Then in here, what we're going to do here is you're going to have set, because you want to set it. So set. Now this set, you need to get a key. But before we do this, you need to initialize it with the project that you're doing. When you do that, it's going to create an ID for that. You're going to attach the ID of the project, the current app, to the secret that you're creating. Okay. Now we have our secret, so user secret, and we have to initialize it. So how do we initialize this? It's quite simple. You need to implement, or you need to add user secret init, to make this work. Now let's see what's going to happen as soon as we type this. We see we are having possible reason could not execute because a specified command or file was not found. Okay, so maybe we did not do it well. It should have been user secrets. Let's add S. Okay, and now here the next thing that we have here is could not find this project. So we need to actually specify project, isn't it? So specify which project you want to use with. So let's say this project name. Let's grab this and now let's try it once again. So then -- project, and now I'm just pasting the project, and I was going to say that yes, this user secret has been set. So this now the user secret is ready to accept data, that's a key and a value. Now for you to set data, so .NET user secrets, then set, specify your key. So this, not that one. Let's specify our key, and that is our key in here. So I'm going to say this is key, but I'm not going to say this is environment. This is user secret key, payment key. And now after this one, I need to set the value. Okay, so I set the value, and I need to make the value available as well. So there is a value, I am making it available. Great. So once I have this, the next thing that I need to do here is quite simple. Just hit on the enter, and now let's see. If I hit on the enter, let's see what's going to happen. You can see we still need to provide the project, isn't it? So let's bring it up, and now -- project. So don't forget to include this, the project. And now let's see. Okay, so this project does not exist. Oh, okay. So this is see what we did. We're supposed to add the project name, but we did not. We added the key. So that is a project. And now after doing this is going to get set, okay, to our user secret. Now let's wait for the next response and now check it out. Yes, so you can see successfully saved user. That is a key, and that is a value to the secret store. So now that we have this, how do we get this? So in order to also see the values or the key that you have in the user secret, you can have it as .NET user secret, then -- okay, so let's have list. Now -- project. So specify the project name, and now this is going to give you all the secrets that you have in there. Okay, all the sensitive data that you have. You're going to have the key and now the value. So we have the key in here, and now there's a value. Now user security is mostly used in development stage. So when developing the app, keeping your sensitive data, you can keep them in here. User secret and environment variables are not at all time or mostly recommended in production, because here it gets stored in the memory as well. The best way to do here is implement that is a secret management system. Example is a vault, and one vault from the hash key. We're going to talk about that the next one. So now we have this. Let's say, how do we retrieve it and now use it in the application? So when you have a sensitive data like this, how do you get this? Let's copy the key in here, and now the same way to retrieve data from the app settings, it is the same thing of doing that. Okay, so let's make a copy of this. And now here, this is a user secret. And now from this user secret, it is get 3. That's a version of 3. Now let's specify this. So instead of you getting this like that, no, you can use configuration. So config, and now specify the key. And that is all. So pass the data in here, and now let's try this out. So let's try this out. If I click on this, let's see, try this out. Let's execute this, and you can see that we have the value in here from my user secret, isn't it? Great. So now that you've seen how to integrate or how to use apsettings.json for hard-coded data, how to dynamically set data to the environment variable, and also the user secret. Let's talk about using the HashiCorp Vault. So with the HashiCorp Vault, it is robust and it's robust for secret management, okay, in production environment. Yes. Why do I say it is robust? The first thing here is an open source tool for securing access and secret, such as API keys, password, and certificate. Why do you need to use Vault, or why do we say it is robust? One, it is centralized secret management system. Now, all secrets are going to center, since you're going to run on a server, you're going to have all the secret being set in there. So even not only this application, other APIs can still have access to that through an endpoint. Also, it also supports audit, logging, and detailed monitoring. So you can monitor who is getting the who is accessing the secret, who is setting up the secret, and a whole lot. You can monitor that as well. So in order to run HashiCorp Vault, you can use the Windows installer or use Docker. So let's see how to do that. But before you do that, you must make sure you have your Docker desktop installed. If you don't have that, I'll check the video description. I'll put that link in there so you can download this Docker desktop and install on your computer. So that is the link, so pull your browser and I'll type in this link, but don't worry, I'll put it in the video description so you can grab it and I'll check it out. Now you're gonna download this Docker desktop. This for Windows. If you're using different OS, go down here and you can click on that is the Docker desktop, and now in here you can specify the version or the type, the platform that you're using, and I'll install that. You see we have Mac, Windows, and Linux, so you can specify any of them. When you're done with this, follow the instruction and install that and launch it to have this. Now it tells you that engine is running, so the Docker here is working. Now what is the next thing that we're going to talk about here is to pull the image of this Vault. How do you pull the image? Let's launch our terminal. So you can use Windows PowerShell as well or command prompt to do that. To verify that Docker is already installed and working, Docker -- version will help you verify that. I have the 2.6.1.1, that is with the build code. Okay, so aside from this, the next thing I'm going to do here is, let's say we're going to pull and I'll run the HashiCorp Vault. So you can see we have the Docker run, and there's a port in and out. There is a default token given to you to access the UI, and then we have the container here, that's the image. So click on this and it's going to run your application for you. Now when this runs the container, we can now have access to a UI provided by this HashiCorp, and this HashiCorp Vault can that UI will enable us to view the data that we set, that is the secret key that we set. Because aside from that, you have a root token also provided for you, and that is down in here. Now this is also for unsealed key, so we're going to look at how to seal this and how to use this unsealed key. So these are the default keys provided for you. Okay, the default key here is the root which has been given in here. If you want to change it, unless maybe you upgrade from your subscription from maybe developer to enterprise, so when you do that, then you can have access to this. This is not recommended for production, it is for development, so take note of that. Now once we're done with this, we can now running, we can open our browser in here and now launch or run our Docker. So open the browser, and now in here you can launch it as localhost, and the port here is A200. You can see we are in here, and now let's specify the port. And now is it the port, that's the token, and which of the token given to us defaultly dev only token, specify in here, and then click on login. So we are in. Now you can see that from here we have a secret, and that is the endpoint. For now there's no secret set, we haven't set anything. So our Vault is running, and we have the current version specified on top in here. So now that we have our hub, that's the Vault working, a server working, we have a UI also connected to the database, and now this is actually working. The next thing we're going to do here is, let's see how we can integrate or we can set keys and our values from our API into the server. Okay, so how do we do that? Let's try to connect them together. So in order to do that, there's a package what is going to form as a bridge between the application and now the vault, and that is the vault shop. So we need to install this package. You go to your application, dependencies, you right click on that, you go to manage NuGet packages, and now in that we need to install vault shop. So browse tab, and I install this package. So let's install this. So now that this has been installed, let's do that in the config controller. So first thing is we need to set up a connection. This connection will give us access to the hub, or that is a vault. So there are some settings that we need to do, and maybe we can put that in the maybe you can add it to any of them. Now you know how to set and get data from the app settings, from environment variables, and our user secret. So for this, we want to put it in the vault so we can be seeing it. You want to put it in the app settings so we can verify it ourselves, or you can implement the other one as well. Okay, so with this, let's have a section known as a vault, and now you have a path. Now this path is going to create as an endpoint that you're going to have all your secrets. So you're going to have it in the form of an endpoint. Then we need an access key. That is a dev only token, a key which is given for development stage. Okay, so this is what we need. Let's put them here. We can also access the URL of this, and now that's the URL. Now this URL, it is localhost 8200 as a port. So localhost, then 8200. So we have a URL in here. Then we have our path. We have our access key. These are the 3 sections that we need. Let's save this. Now let's go to our controller. And in here, in order for us to get this connection, what we're going to do here is we need to create a simple method to grab that. Okay, so with that, maybe we can have access to, let me grab this one. And let's say this method is going to return iVault interface of Vault client. So this method is a private method, and it's going to return this. Now with this, we need to use Vault shop. And in order for us to continue with that, we need to specify the authentication method. And now this auth method, we want to grab this get vault key. Do you know where we are getting this vault key? We are getting it from the config file, right? So maybe we can have access to it in here, or we can inject configuration, as you can see from here. And now maybe we can remove this like this, pass it on here, and now say we need our vault, and now access key or token, access key. So when we check our vault in here, we have access key, vault, and our access key, and that is the same thing that we are doing in the controller. So vault and our access key to get the key in here for authentication. Now after we are done with that, we can also implement the user secret or the environment variable. You can do that. Now you know how to do it, isn't it? Great. Now you can create your client settings, and now for your client, we need to specify this. So instead of doing 127.0.0.1, no, we want to get this config and now pass it on to the URL. So here, that is the URL. You pass on like that so we can retrieve the URL from that. Okay, now let's move this because this is a duplicate of that. And aside from that, we have our return vault client. Now this client here, we pass in the setting that we're getting, and now we have to return it in here. Bear in mind that here we are specifying the auth method, which takes in the access key from the settings and now pass it on in here. Okay, so now this is ready to be used anywhere. Now how do we set? In order for you to set data to the vault, what we can do here is quite simple. Let's see. I want to grab this very simple one. So let's say set and get. So we have HTTP get, and I'm going to say this is set vault. Now within that I have my public. I don't need any async, right? Because this we can append it a wait keyword to make this synchronous. So let's see, let's use an action result, and now let's say this is set vault. Now this set vault, what are we doing? We want to create an instance of this client. We prepare our secret data in the form of a dictionary which contains the key and the value. So we have our payment key in here, that is a value. Now aside from that, you can see we need to specify the path. So that's going to create an endpoint for us. And now from the path, we need to get the path from the config file. So we specify the vault and then the path. So when you check the app settings, you can see we have path in here. You want to grab this last secret data. That is what you want to do. And now we need to specify the secret data, which is in the form of dictionary, a key value pair. Then the mount point here, it is secret. .wait, and this is going to wait for this process to be done nicely. And after that, we want to return data returned successfully. This is quite simple. Now let's run this and check it out. So this is ready. Now let's click on this to set value to the vault. Now click on this. We must have a status of what successfully written or set. So let's see. We must make sure our Docker is running. We have an issue in here. The local host scheme is not supported. Oh, okay. So this is what we can do. We can specify the 127. Maybe we need to make an explicit in there and specifying the URL. Okay, so there is an HTTP 127.0.0.1 and the port here is 8200. So app settings, we have HTTP. We did not do that. See HTTP. Then we have our local host, and now the port is that. Yes, maybe this will work. Let's try this again and check it out. So click on the set vault, try, set it up. Yes, so you can see I've successfully written. Now when we open our vault UI, that's a UI, and in here let's refresh this, and you can see they're going to have the data being set up in here. Let's sign in. Yes, secret data, that is our path. Click on the path, and you can see we have our payment as a key, and then that is the value. So click on this to get it. You can see this is the value that we have in the vault. You can copy this. You can also download this as well. You can convert it into JSON format in case you want that. You can also do that as well. Good. So now that we have this, how do you can delete this as well. You see we have them in here, and I blast for this. You can you've seen it yourself, right? How do we get data from this? Now we are certain. So in case I have my API key, I want to call an external service, and I want to get the API key, include it in my settings, and I make a call to that external API. How do I do it? Let's see how to retrieve data. It's quite simple. Now we have this client created. Let's have another method set up down here, and that's an HTTP get. And now with this get, we're saying that here get vault. So this get vault, this is also the public action result, and that is a get vault. Now we need to create an instance of this. Remember that we need to create a client at any time that I want to make a call to the endpoint. Now after we do that, what we're going to do next here is to have the method called. So maybe this simple method created can enable us or can help us do it. Now we need to specify our path, because when setting up we specify the path, isn't it? Now we need to specify our path. So we can make an explicit, or what can we do in here? Yes, we can make an explicit, or maybe we can let's maintain that. Okay, now we have our path, and on this path here it is this value and on the path, vault and on the path. Do you remember that? We did that in the app settings. So you want to grab the path, and at the mount point, that is secret, you need to specify that. Now in order to read, we have this version 2 in here, and now we are reading. So you see the version writing and reading is the same version. You can specify version 1 or version 2. Now we are reading from the same version, that's the v2. Now that is we read from here, and now we get from the response. Now this secret data here is coming in the form of dictionary. If I right click on the secret data and I go to pick definition, you're going to have it in the form of dictionary. Check it up and see. And that's what we use to create the secret data in the form of the set. So this is coming from the I dictionary, which contains the string of a key and an object as a value. So that's a key value pair. That sounds great. So now that we have this, we have the data in here. What to do here is we want to only get the key, the payment key. So maybe we can have access to return this payment key after we have it set up in the secret. So return, okay, then we can have access to the secret.data.payment key. Terminate it in here, and that is all. So simple way to read it. Now let's also rerun this and now check it out. So we are not going to set again. We've set already. We have it permanently stored in there, and we're going to make a look out of it. So let's see how to work on that. So let's see. Now we're going to get the value here. We have specified the value already. So click on this, try this out, and now we must get the key in here. And I can see we are getting the key from the server, from our vault. And also one last advantage thing that I want to tell you here, it is when we open our vault, there's something called seal vault. Do you want to seal it? Now watch here. Sealing a vault tells the vault server to stop responding to any access operation until it is unsealed again. So here it's like you want to put a padlock to it. When you put a padlock, it's not going to respond to any. So this lock is sealed, and all keys that you have in here are going to be kept safely for you. No in, no out. So click on this sealed. I just want to do this, confirm. If I want to unseal this to make it open to all client or all requests, I have to unseal it. And now defaultly we have a default token given to us. So grab this, and now we can unseal this again to a normal use. And now when you do this, you can now log in, and our client can make a request to this. So in conclusion, we can say that securing sensitive data is non-negotiable in today's digital landscape. By leveraging environment variables, user secret, and a HashiCorp vault, you can ensure your applications are not only function but also secure. Whether you are just starting or looking to boost your existing security practices, these tools will help you keep your secrets safe. Thank you for watching this. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and now hit on the notification bell for more tech tutorials and tips. Leave your questions and comments below as well, as I would love to hear from you when you are securing your sensitive data. Alright, so see you again. Till then, take care.